All right, we're live. What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
What's up?
So it's a little bit late for me. I like to be in bed at this time.
It's the stroke of 9 p.m.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's good for me. But I've got my Seahawks hat on. Derek's got his Georgia hat on. Chris, where's your Packers hat?
What?
Where is your Packers hat?
I mean, that's not really a celebratory game, but I'll take it. That's not hat. That's not a hat worthy game.
Really?
Beating the Bears, that's just another Sunday afternoon. So that's nothing. That's nothing to celebrate.
All right. Well, sorry. I just want to quickly read out a text from you just after that game. I think it was all caps, right? And it said, "We win, bitches." Oh, sorry. It says, I'm not going to swear. It says, F you. We win, bitches.
Well, that's because you and your little bros kept sending little feeler texts about, you're like, I know, and you're not talking about what game you're talking about. You just write, uh-oh. It's no context, like, uh-oh, and stuff like that, because y'all all hate me, and you always want my teams to lose. No matter what it is, y'all just root against me. So
that's not true.
Not me, Chris. Yeah. Not me, Chris.
I appreciate it, brother. Yeah.
No, I think
Mark knows who I'm talking about. Mark knows his little posse that all wish bad things, ill things upon me and my teams. So
I don't think it was about your team. I think it was more about, the Bears haven't won against you guys in 12, 11 games now.
We're 11, last 11 and 0.
11 in a row. So,
yeah.
I was a little bit, look out, like the Bears can get excited for them, and didn't work out. But
yeah, you were trying to become a Caleb Williams fan just out of nowhere, out of the blue, and you tried to make all these, which we'll talk about in the NFL, but you try to make an argument that Caleb Williams is as good as Jayden Daniels this year. So I'm really interested when we get to that point to see if you can actually make that come into fruition after you talked about it all week through text messaging.
Both quarterbacks threw 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions this week. So to me, that's on par for them. Both of them are behind Bo Nix, if you ask me. So.
We could take it like into 5 minutes of one game. Maybe they each had 3 completions. I don't know. I mean, we can break it down as little and minutely as you want to try to make them seem like they're equals this year. So,
all right, well,
whatever stats you want to pull out of your hat, I'm good with.
Yeah, all right. Well, you keep rubbing up on Jayden, and we'll keep over here just looking at things from a unbiased lens. Derek, Georgia's back. That was probably their best performance of the season.
He looked a little
I wouldn't say we're back, but we had a really good game for what we've been playing. I don't want to say really good. We had a good game, more of a complete game than what we have shown so far.
Okay.
Carson Beck didn't turn the ball over, which was great, and that seemed like a miracle. And the defense did what they had to do. A little shaky in the first half, but yeah, it was a good win.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but I'll tell you who is back. And that's Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks, baby.
I was about to say, we are back. The Seahawks.
1 win away from leading the NFC West. Geno, top 10 quarterback, back in the books. Away from home, first time in 6 games. 49ers, who are ya? The boys are back.
Man, you are like a roller coaster of Seattle emotion. It is like, it goes from 1 week, you're like, 1 week they're like, oh, they're trash. They had the worst team in football. Geno, we need a new quarterback. And then they win one little game and you're like, we are the best at everything in the whole world. That's just gotta be an emotional roller coaster for you to live on. I feel bad for you.
No, it's
good win in San Fran. You guys are back at 500?
500, 1 win behind the Cardinals, who we play this week. So, chance to go top of the division.
And if you lose that game, you can be like, the whole season's over. The team is trash. Geno needs to go. So,
look, Kyler Murray was in New York this weekend. So, he was at the UFC. He's eating Joe's Pizza with some random dude on the street. That man is not focused. We're good.
I didn't have any idea who he was talking to. He just, what was his name? Surya.
Yeah, Soria from Switzerland.
He's like, what's your name? He's like, Kyler. I had no idea
also,
he kind
of trashed on Joe's Pizza. That's a good place. Okay.
And hey, if any of our computers, if any of our screens do freeze, our show is sponsored by Netflix, by the way. So just in case anybody wants to know that,
we're going outside football.
I didn't know what was more exciting. Was the Georgia game on Saturday I was looking forward to, or the Friday night boxing?
I'm not trying
match?
to go outside. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
that was
man.
quite the spectacle.
Spin.
And then even when Mike Tyson was moving, I thought it was still buffering. He was that slow. So
Hey,
it
the only part that I saw clear as day is when they showed his butt cheeks. Then for some reason the streaming was working perfectly during that part of it, but during the rest of it, I could not see any of the fight. I only got to see some buttocks. So whatever.
Yeah, that one was tough. All right, well that was a big intro. We got a big show. Hot off the press, the 12-team bracket projection has been released for, is it the third week now, and we got some changes again. So let's take a look. All right, here we go. So Oregon stays 1, Texas 2, Miami 3. The big one is Boise State overtaking BYU into that first round bye. Ashton Jeanty just running rings around people. And then obviously Georgia back in there, and Tennessee drop out, which is, I think they've still got a chance, but that was a little disappointing for them, having beat Alabama. And then Ohio State stays there at 5. But guys, what are your thoughts initially on this list?
Derek, what you got?
I was just talking.
I know you got some thoughts
before we start the podcast. I don't understand this. I feel like they claim that it's supposed to be an eye test, who your competition is, who you're playing against, your strength of schedule, and if you're going based off records, I can kind of understand what these rankings, but I mean, I just personally, it's Big Ten's just lighting up there in the top 6 spots, it seems like, and who are these teams played? Who have they played? Who has Indiana played? Who has Penn State played? Ohio State and Oregon played each other. And outside of that, it's incredible. I was just talking to Chris, though. We have some SEC teams in there. If it were to play out right now, I feel like they would take all 3 of those games in the first round, go into the quarterfinals. And that quarterfinal will be SEC loaded, which I love. And I just don't see where this committee's. I understand it. I think they're basing off records, though. I don't think they're basing it off of what they claim they should be doing. That's my take.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you remember last year, right? You had the whole FSU Georgia debacle, and there was 4 teams, and everyone said, "We know what, next year there's 12 teams. This stuff won't happen."
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you have Tennessee that could easily be 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Like, because they beat Alabama. So Alabama, they could be ahead of them. They lost to Georgia. It starts to get a little bit muddy when you start looking at strengths of schedule, start looking at who's beaten who. It starts to offset it, contradict each other, and it gets kind of tricky. The quickest way or the shortest way to get in there is to winning the conference. So it's tight. Chris, do you echo Derek's thoughts? Do you think Tennessee should be in there for one of these Big Ten teams?
I think I would definitely have Tennessee in there at number 12 instead of BYU if I was picking it or whatever. I'm just glad they split up. I just hope they keep it where the SEC teams don't have to play each other, or they we kind of get a good barometer of all the teams and what have you. But it's college, it's like school. They like giving out participation trophies, so that's what they're doing. Give some gold stars, give some participation trophies to the Big Ten teams, make them feel good about themselves for a week, and they'll get rocked off the field.
First of all, BYU is there as an automatic qualifier, so. So they can easily drop out. I think their spot's in jeopardy to Colorado. So that Pac-12 or Big 12 championship is essentially going to decide who makes it and who doesn't. I have a question for you guys. If just say Alabama and Texas play in the SEC championship, and then Texas wins, does Alabama make it as a 3-loss team, or does a Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, who will have 2 losses but didn't play in the SEC championship, jump them? Like, is the SEC championship detrimental to your playoff chances and therefore diminishing its importance
I
in the season?
I think yes, because if you're gauging it off of what they've done so far, they're basing it off of records. it almost penalizes you to make it to the conference championship game. And if you have a 3-loss, because you lose that SEC championship, drops you out because they're basing it off of records from what I can tell.
Right.
And as much as guys, obviously I'm a Georgia fan, and I can say Georgia played a very tough schedule this year. They played the hardest strength of schedule out of all these teams. They have played the toughest schedule, and I would tell an Indiana fan or a Boise State fan, Notre Dame fan, why don't you go on the road and play Alabama, play Ole Miss, play a Clemson in a neutral site game. Those guys didn't. And Georgia also didn't play at home for almost 40 days, and I just, But yeah, I think if you lose the SEC championship game, I think that hurts somebody.
Yeah, and that's been a discussion, and I'm sure the SEC commissioner is in the ear of the NCAA trying to make sure that the runners-up get in. The only thing I'll say about this ranking is you've got 4 Big Ten, you've got 4 SEC, you've got ACC, Mountain West, Big 12. So you kind of got representation.
Notre Dame's an independent.
And an independent.
Right.
So you kind of got representation across the whole country. I understand the argument for Tennessee to be in there over a Penn State, over Indiana, who haven't beaten anyone, but that's the trade-off of playing in the SEC. You have a harder schedule, but you win and you do well, then you get yourself in. And look at a team like Georgia, right? As you said, Derek, hardest schedule or toughest strength of schedule this season. Their path to the semifinals that would be favorites, almost double digits in some of these. You would think. I just think they're a stronger conference, as we all agree on. But you can't have 12 SEC teams there. So there has to be someone that's probably deserves to be there that misses out. But the trade-off for that is if you're an SEC team and you have 2 losses, you've still a chance of making it. So
yeah, and I'm complaining a little bit about that, but at the same time, you look at it the other way, right? You can say you can feel good about, like you just said, you can feel good about a team that has played a tough schedule because, man, they've been in these big games. They played very stiff competition. They've made it to the playoffs. So, you know what I mean? Like, no game is too big for these guys. Like, a Georgia's not going to play, once they get to the playoffs, if they do get in, no game's going to be too big for them. They'll be ready to play.
Yeah.
But like a Boise State or a Indiana or Penn State, are they going to be ready? Are they going to be ready for that game?
Well, Indiana's going to get a very good test this week against Ohio State, and I would love to see what happens with an Ohio. Actually, either or, because if Ohio State loses, that's them out of the Big Ten championship, and that's 2 losses. So does a 2-loss Big Ten team make it over a 2-loss SEC team like Tennessee? That causes questions. And then the other question is, does a 1-loss Indiana team to Ohio State, do they make it over a 2-loss SEC? It's going to get very interesting, and we've said this every week. It's going to change a lot. But
also, if Texas were to make it to, which looks like they are, if they beat Texas A&M and get to the SEC championship game, and Texas loses the SEC championship game, they may fall all the way out because they haven't. Their schedule has been as easy as you can get in an SEC schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be some tough conversations. Are they doing the same thing as they did in the past, where after the conference championships, you have a live kind of read out of the playoffs? Is that how they're doing it again this year? Do we know?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. All right, Chris, any final thoughts on the bracket?
Hey, I just say my Oregon upset pick was really close. Okay, so they almost blew it, and they probably should have, but it's okay. But it was close.
I was thinking of you on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, I was close on that one. They had the lead. They were able to. They almost went up by a touchdown, and it's all right.
They had them. They had them on the ropes.
Yep,
they had them, and Oregon. I know Oregon's going to be the consensus number 1, no doubt about it, but they haven't been like blowing teams out of the water. They had that shaky start to the season. They came pretty good. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a real good one. Penn State have bounced back a lot since I trashed them, but again, is Purdue really a team? They're 1-9.
No.
Texas hard-fought victory against Arkansas. That was a big rivalry game, which was good. Alabama played Mercer, which I was like, is that the Mercer I'm thinking of down in Macon?
That's the one.
That's them. Derek, is it true that your brother was the first ever quarterback at Mercer?
No.
All right.
My
well,
brother
I'll have to
played
go,
at Mercer, but he was not a quarterback.
I'll have to go check the sources on that one.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting your information from.
He was he played he was a defensive back.
Oh, there we go. Way off.
Yeah.
Another team to watch out for, I think, in the Big 12. So Big 12, let's talk about Colorado, because they're on fire at the moment. Deion Sanders and the boys are just running through teams. They're likely going to play in the Big 12 championship. And we mentioned earlier, BYU lost, so they look pretty vulnerable. There's another team, Arizona State, has turned around things pretty well over there. So that's heating up a little bit. But, I mean, are you guys with me? I would love to see Colorado in the playoffs somewhere. I think it'd just be so much entertainment and it'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean they're making some ground. They're exciting.
What are you laughing at, Chris?
Nothing. I'm just looking at their. I mean, you're a big Colorado guy this year, so I think it'd be good for entertainment value. You know,
talk about them every week. It seems like you bring them.
They're playing 4-6 Kansas this week, and they're only 2.5-point favorites. So I don't know what's going on there. It seems a lot closer than you would think. But same time, BYU's playing Arizona State, and they're a 3-point under. BYU's a 3-point underdog against Arizona State. So seems like the Big 12 is wide open right now as far as like who could be who.
Yeah, Arizona State went into Kansas State, who were ranked before that, and blew them off the park. So they've started to look really good. You know, we just talk about SEC and Big Ten here all the time. I'd like to get some love to the smaller conferences, but there's a lot of excitement. What about LSU? What a fall from grace. You see that video of Brian Kelly just ripping that player?
It was the receiver.
You're uncoachable. Yeah.
Well, he got ripped too by another player. So
to be uncoachable, at first you have to actually coach them. So I mean that's the prerequisite.
You saw later in the game where the other receiver like ran over there and like got in his face.
Yeah, just, going into last week, it was like, all right, we've got to beat Alabama to stay in the race. This is the playoff eliminator. Nighttime at LSU. Let's go. Blown off the park. Let's go play Florida, who, to be fair, their backup quarterback did come back and play, but he's playing on one leg. He was limping. He wasn't, he wasn't giving it. He wasn't 100%. Lose to Florida. How long's Brian Kelly been at LSU for? Because I feel like he might be under the pump a little bit.
I feel like them boosters are about to start.
This is his third year, I believe.
They're about to start fundraising, buy him out.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, they're still paying Coach O, probably, aren't they?
I'm sure they are. Coach O's probably on a cruise somewhere, though. He's chilling. He's having some drinks. He's chilling on the beach somewhere.
Hey, as we've learned, there's no salary cap or restrictions when it comes to how many coaches and how much you can pay them forever. Okay, it's like so.
Like he said, what did he say before he left there? He said, "You're gonna pay me 20." He's like, "You're gonna buy me out for 20-something million." He's like, "Tell me where the door's at."
Yeah.
He was happy to leave and take that paycheck.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Georgia, Derek, because we touched on it a little bit at the start.
Yeah.
Down 10-0. I was concerned for them because when they're down this year, they haven't been able to get back into games until late. Alabama, Ole Miss, they couldn't get back into it, but they hung in 17 points in the second quarter, so went to halftime tied, and then second half was dominant on defense, and offense did their job. What'd you make of the game? Do you think Georgia's turned the corner, and what'd you like about it?
Yeah, I think like you said, I think I was on. I was a little antsy at first. Going down 10-0. I thought, oh, here we go again. But like I said, the defense did enough. Tennessee still established a run game. I think they almost had 150 yards rushing. But they did just enough to allow held their ground and allowed the offense to get them back into the game. And then second half, they were really getting after their quarterback. Our defensive line did a really good job at putting pressure on them. They ended up with 5 sacks. And they couldn't get the passing game going, which really helped us. But like I said, Carson played a really I felt for the most part a pretty good complete game. No turnovers. He threw for 350 yards. Had a few drop passes. Again, we've had some issues with that. We got to
Yeah.
clean that up still. I mean, we can't. Those drop passes are going to count, especially in these big games. If we get to get into the playoffs, we can't have that happening. But yeah, I thought this is the Georgia we needed to see. Very makes me feel good moving forward. And Kirby had the guys ready to play, but they always play their best when their back's against the wall. It's hard to bet against a Georgia team that is coming off of a loss, and one more knowing that they're out of it. I wouldn't bet against them. I know Tennessee fans are going to complain about these calls that were missed and all that, but I think we still would have had that game regardless of the calls. But yeah, I was happy. It was a good game, and hopefully Carson can keep it up, and hopefully we're seeing his best football come to life right when we need to start seeing it.
Yeah, and I want to shout out to the Georgia O-line because
yeah, good point.
They were copping so much shit last week, deservedly copping it, and I'm sure behind closed doors they were getting torn apart, and they came out and proved the point. And that's a good Tennessee defense. They got a great D-line. I think they still struggled a bit with the run game. I don't know if it was the O-line or if it was just no Etienne, so maybe they didn't have the experience there, but they protected Carson, and he was a lot better.
Yeah, the run game has gotten a lot of a lot of people have been down on the run game this year, and deservedly so. But you got to think, I mean, we are down to our fourth string running back,
right?
So Etienne is our starter, and then there's two more running backs that have been hurt all year long, our second and third string. So now we're on to the 4 and number 5 backs that we've been playing with for the most part all year long. So you got to keep that in mind too.
Yeah, and I don't want to defend Carson Beck, but that puts pressure on him when teams know he's going to throw it because they can't run the ball, and the O-line hasn't been great. Puts more pressure on him. Chris, I think you were texting me on Saturday. Were you watching College Game Day? They spent segments and segments defending Carson Beck again. Like they're going through footage of drop passes or bad O-line reads, which we know they're there, but we've had issues with his decision making and his confidence outside of all these problems. So I don't know, Chris. Are we wrong? Are we not looking at his game right?
He's not Carson Beck. He's Carson Cousins. He's one of the streakiest quarterbacks I've ever seen in my entire life. There's so many unknowns with him. He can go out there and throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns. He can go out there and throw 4 interceptions. So, and it feels like within the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game which one you're going to get. And it just seems like, I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if it's a preparation thing. I don't know if it's a coaching thing. He is just 2 sides of, you just flip a coin every time he goes out there. And I mean, hopefully you see, I call it good Kirk, bad Kirk. Hopefully we see more good Carson instead of bad Carson. But if you're a Georgia fan, you cannot say that bad Carson isn't going to come back to bite you again. I mean, he could come back out at any moment. And Kirby just has something to prove right now. He just ripped all the college football playoff people right after the game, after they won. It seemed like he just had it. He just seems like he has so many scores to settle right now. He was going to make Carson Beck throw in that game just to prove a point. Right? Everybody kept talking about the blackout. He's just going to prove a point. No, we're not wearing black uniforms because I am the coach. And it just seems like he has so many vendettas against so many people. And as a made man with 2 national championships, who's considered the best coach in college football, maybe that's just what he needs, that chip on his shoulder to get him and his team motivated. But he just seems like an angry fella right now.
I mean, he's one of the few head coaches that throws his own fan base under the bus just to get these guys motivated. He literally tells you the fans suck.
I mean, you win a huge game like this, right? And and then they taught you after the game. You're like, I don't know what these college football people are seeing. They're a bunch of idiots out there. Yeah. It's like, it just seemed like a weird time to bring that up, when he just got put right back into the playoffs now, and everybody knew they were going to get put back in the playoffs after they won that game.
It seems like he's really channeling his inner Nick Saban these days. Just got to fire the boys up one way or another every week, find a way. And it's tough when you're on paper supposed to be the best team in the nation. It's tough to go out every week with a bunch of kids and get them motivated, but man, he's really overdoing it this week, isn't he? I was so disappointed it wasn't a blackout game. Like, you had college game day there, you had the lights, everything was going.
All the fans were dressed up. All the fans were dressed up, ready. Yeah.
And then the entrance, there was this like anticipation. You know, they hid them, they put all this smoke out. I'm like, yes, here we go.
Like, they went in and changed jerseys. Like, you thought they were going to come out in the black.
Yeah, like, you know, they came out and practice in the red, go back in, change. And then even Kirk Herbstreit in commentary is like, a lot of anticipation here. And I'm like, here we go. Like, even Kirk was hearing it, and then out comes the red. And it was just, I know it's at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, but like, man, that would have been so good, you know? Anyway.
They're just, those black uniforms are, man, they're just awesome, man. I love those black uniforms, and I just never get to see him wear it. But, you know, he's kind of, you know, like you talking about, he comes from the Nick Saban tree. He's traditionalist, you know, he doesn't like.
He is not going to pander to the crowd. And if anything, he will do the opposite just to prove a point. That's who he is, and that's who he's going to be. So whatever you ask for, you ain't going to get it.
So essentially, we're never going to see. I mean, if we weren't going to see blackout for that game, we're not going to see it again while Kirby's coaching. Awesome. Yeah. Well, whatever.
Well, you only see it when the recruits come in and they try it on.
Well, that was going to be my next point, because you had Julian Lewis, who's the number 1 5-star quarterback. He was committed to USC. He was in attendance on Saturday. He was at a visit in Georgia. Another reason for the blackout. And the next day, decommits. Derek, do you know much about this guy? Is this a big move?
Yeah. He's out of Carrollton, Georgia.
Okay.
And supposed to be, you know, the real deal. And I know, who was he? Was he originally committed to USC?
USC, yeah. Since last August, he's been committed for, you know, well over.
And you're saying he decommitted on Sunday?
Decommitted on Sunday.
Okay. Yeah. I just know, like I said, I've heard some good things about him. You know, the real deal, and I know a lot of schools are after him. And I hope we get him. You know, I'll take any talented quarterback we can get, put him in the pipeline. But you know, it's tricky with quarterbacks these days, because it's like, I feel like if they're not getting playing time immediately,
and money,
money,
money now,
the NIL is a big part of that. If they're not getting that and playing immediately, it's like they're just off to the next school. So it's like hard to really put too much stock, I feel like, in these big time recruits like we used to. Mm-hmm. Like back in the day, it was big news when you got these recruits. You're like, oh yes, we're going to have them for 3 years, you know, and at least 3 years, and you don't have that anymore. So like, you know, these classes are losing 30 to 40% of those guys that are, you know, their freshman year. By the time they get sophomore, they're out of there. So it's hard to really get too excited anymore, because you just don't know how long they're going to be there.
You know what I find hilarious though is, so USC then got Hussein Longstreet, who was committed to Texas A&M, 5-star. They got him to decommit from Texas A&M and go to USC. So Texas A&M's just sitting there on Sunday going like, what did we do wrong?
Right.
And now Georgia's better and we're worse off. But yeah, it is interesting with NIL and the transfer portal these days, you know. I've been a big supporter of it, and I think it's good for college football. But the trade-off is, to your point, Derek, it's going to be so tough. Like, this guy commits in August of last year. So you've got 2 years to keep this guy happy, and he's not even on your roster yet. So that you've got your own roster, plus all these commits trying to keep happy. No wonder Saban retired and things like that. It's tough.
Yeah, and knowing Kirby, Kirby's not, I mean, yeah, his first, and obviously Jake Fromm was an exception. He played his true freshman year and ended up playing, you know, for 3 years. But Kirby's just not a coach. He's probably not going to play a freshman starter if he doesn't have to. You know, not when you got juniors and seniors in line. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, let's look ahead to this week's games. We mentioned Indiana and Ohio State. Ohio State 13.5-point favorites. So obviously the bookies aren't thinking Indiana's strength of schedule has been that great. Their wins haven't been that impressive. I think Ohio State's going to come in. Ohio State's actually favorite to win it all, to win a national championship. But Chris, do you expect this one to be a close one? This is Big Ten, so it's going to be a snooze fest, according to you. But who wins the snooze fest of the Big Ten juggernauts?
It is good. Yeah, Ohio State rocks Indiana in the snooze fest. Indiana, it's a great story. It's a little Cinderella story. It's cute and all that stuff. They haven't played anybody. And they just squeaked by Michigan, before their bye this past week. So now they get to play a real team on the road. That environment's going to be crazy, and it's a noon game, so it's a pretty early game. So we'll figure out, what's going to happen pretty quick. But I don't expect Indiana to compete in this one.
And
yeah,
sorry, go on, Derek.
Well, I was just going to say, I saw this guy talking about the playoff rankings, and he was talking about Indiana being very high, considering they haven't played anyone. And all I could see in the comments were all these Indiana fans. Well, they beat Washington and Michigan. They were in the national championship last year. My God, are you guys that naive? Like, do you guys watch football? I mean, go back to basketball, okay? Like, you guys aren't watching football. Yes, they beat Washington and Michigan, who are both, I believe they both have at least 5 losses this year. They're not the same Washington and Michigan of last year. So let's quit saying they played somebody. They haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the chance that they want. This is the game they want to prove themselves, but I think it is going to be tough. I think Ohio State, from what I've seen, they're the real deal. They'll be a tough team to beat in the playoffs, so I think they'll get this one done comfortably. Moving back to the Big 12, Arizona State and BYU. So this is 2 ranked teams. Arizona State has been on the upward trajectory. BYU lost last week. The big thing here is if Arizona State wins, BYU can go from 4th ranked to 12th ranked to completely out of the rankings in 2 weeks. One of my buddies, he's an Arizona State alumni, so he was filling me in saying that they're ahead of schedule of where they're supposed to be. They're playing well. They got a good win on the road last week. Any thoughts on this game? It's a tight one. I think it's 3 points ASU, so it's tight, but do we think it's done for BYU? Do we think it's over?
I'm just glad it's on at 3:30. I mean, BYU is usually like 3 a.m. when these games end. So, I mean, maybe I'll actually be able to stay awake long enough to watch it.
Yeah, I will say BYU's came away with some really close. They've won some really close games. They finally lost obviously this past week, but they're exciting to watch. I will say they played in some games that have been really fun to watch. But Arizona State, man, they've turned things around. That program, they have a young head coach. I forget where he came. He was the offensive coordinator. I forget where he came from, but he's young. He's fiery. Like he's a real deal. He's got that program going in the right direction. So would not surprise me that Arizona State steals that one.
Big game.
Yep.
It's going to be a big one. And last game I want to talk about, and I'll throw it to you guys afterwards, but Ole Miss and Florida. I'm pumped for this one because Ole Miss loses, they are done. Like, they know they can't lose again. Florida just seems to be one of these teams that are terrible one week and then really stick it to a team the other week. LSU's a big win. Tennessee, they lost in overtime. They gave Georgia a good run for their money with a 3rd-string quarterback. Ole Miss better be careful here. And if they lose this one, I mean, Tennessee's sitting right behind them, ready to take that spot back. Do we think there's a chance? It's a 10.5-point spread to Mississippi. Do we think Florida's a chance here?
I certainly do. I mean, Florida's showing some fight. Everyone had them done after like week 4. Billy Napier was on the hot seat.
Yeah.
And the athletic director said, like, we're sticking with Billy Napier as our head coach. They played a gauntlet too, and they had a really tough schedule. And but yeah, Florida's showing some fight, and I think Billy Napier has Florida going in the right direction. And this program, especially with DJ Lagway, I mean, he's a heck of a quarterback, and the future is bright. And I think Florida gets a couple of good recruiting classes. Florida's right back in the conversation in SEC.
Yeah, and like, we don't like Florida, obviously, but it's good to have Florida be good. That game against Georgia is supposed to be, a spectacle, and it hasn't really been competitive for a while. So
people forget, man, Florida, when old Coach Spurrier was there, I mean, Florida was the real deal. And then when they had Urban Meyer, again, brought life. And for a long time, man, Florida was a team to beat in the SEC. People forget that.
Yeah, big Aaron Hernandez shooting up the block, killing it down there, winning national championships. They were good.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, this podcast ain't getting sponsored.
I was just thinking the same thing. Mark had to go ruin it.
It's actually sponsored by the new Aaron Hernandez show on, I believe it's FX.
Oh, yeah.
Catch it on Hulu the day after it airs. So thanks for that one.
That show looked god awful.
Any other college
clips? I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Any other college football takeaways or discussion points before we move on to the pros?
Upset alert. I'm going to keep doing this upset alert. I'm going to get one.
Like
I was real close. I like Virginia over SMU this week. Okay. They're 9.5-point dog. They're both ACC teams. SMU has looked a little rocky here lately. They're on the road. So that's the one I'll be looking at. See if they pull off the upset and end SMU's fairy tale run.
Also, watch out for Army. Army against Notre Dame.
I was going to say that too. Army and Notre Dame is going to be a big one. Chris, you should go to Virginia. It's a $15 ticket, so you can just head up there and cheer on the lads for the upset.
Well, it's a noon game, so I have to leave at like 3 a.m. But maybe so it'll be all right.
And then we'll my upset alert for the week would be the University of Massachusetts 42-point dogs against the Dogs. You never know. No, I'm kidding. I think Georgia runs through that one, obviously.
I mean,
tickets as well as $59.
Take the under. If it's a 42-point favorite, the over-under is 55.5. So, I mean, good Lord. I mean, Georgia should score at least 50 in that game, shouldn't they? So,
I know. I'd love to see Icona Stockton or Ryan Puglisi just get a go,
Let's see someone use some real.
Yeah. Just as some type of insurance heading into the playoffs, but
make us feel a little good. Maybe okay, if worst comes to worst, we have this in our back pocket.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. On to the pros. Let's see, Chris. You had 5 teams in your contenders tier, was it? 5.
I think it was
Bengals,
6. I think
6.
I had 6.
You have
2 teams you had.
I think I had 6.
Okay. One of the teams you had, the Bengals, are now 4-7.
Yeah.
I mean,
Still a chance. They're not done yet.
I mean, look, what we discussed last week kind of is exactly what this game was, right? Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase, unbelievable players. Joe Burrow is my favorite quarterback to watch. He's just a magician. He's a freak. But their defense just cannot do anything. And they came out in the second half and really turned it around, forced a fumble on Herbert, did a couple other things that was looking good, but it's too little too late. Chris, you still got
I guess I had the wrong
Bengals
team.
as contenders?
I mean, my Chargers should have been contenders instead of your Bengals, I guess is what I should have done there, So no, the Bengals they're cooked. That I thought it was going to be desperation. It was a must-win game, and they came out flat, and they gave it the old college try. And old McPherson couldn't kick a field goal, and now he's in the doghouse. So it's lights out for Cincinnati.
So you skipped the playoff contention altogether. They went from contenders to
they're cooked. Oh yeah, they're cooked. They just skipped some steps.
Pretenders.
Yeah,
they skipped pretenders and playoff contention.
Well, they had to win that game to make the playoffs, and now they can't make the playoffs because they have no tiebreakers. And even if they run the table, no, they're done.
A little too late. Their defense got played a good second half, like Mark said, but wasn't enough there. And not too many happy campers right now in Cincinnati between Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. They didn't look too happy in their post-game interviews.
Yeah, I mean, and you give Ja'Marr Chase T. Higgins on the other side, and they should be cooking. Mm-hmm. And they are, to be fair, they are cooking. But I don't know. It's been a disappointing season for them. And the good news if you're a Bengals fan though is that you've got your quarterback and you've got his receiver. You got something there. You just need to work around and fix the defense and get something going. Because as long as you have Joe Burrow, you're going to be in contention. You just gotta give him some help on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
All right. Another team that were a contender, Green Bay Packers. Chris, how are you feeling going for that field goal? Did being the Bears, there had to be some level of confidence that you were going to sneak away with this one when they lined up for that kick. But are they still contenders in your book?
Yeah, they're still contenders in my book. Why? Because they win a game? That makes they're not contenders because they win a close game on the road in the division?
I mean, you've spoken shit on the Bears all year.
Well,
so
yeah,
now
they're not a good team.
Okay.
Well, they came out. I mean, now they know all their jobs are on the line, so they came out with a little passion because they just got their coach fired. And, I mean, it's hard to beat a division team 11 times in a row, so it's not going to be easy every single time we beat them. So, I mean, we had to make it hard on them here one time, and that's what they got. So, yeah, we didn't come out that great. Looked a little shaky. The offense was actually moving the ball up and down the field. We just didn't get very many opportunities at all, and Jordan Love threw another bad interception. And the defense just giving up too many. It was just huge. It was 8-10 minute drives every single time. The defense, Jair, he's just, I don't know what he's doing. He's just getting a paycheck at this point. He played like 8 snaps and then he was out. And we just traded our second best pass rusher during the bye. But no, it's okay. That's a momentum builder right there. I'm not taking them off that list.
What y'all think of the decision that the Bears made at the end, like not trying to run that clock out instead of trying to get a bit closer?
Yeah, so Eberflus is terrified right now that if he would have ran the ball and there's a fumble or they have a big loss and that they missed the field goal, that he's going to be blamed for it. So what he did was he just played it totally safe and scared. Santos is a good field goal kicker, but yeah, he just played it way too cautiously and ended up biting him.
Well, he was almost like 100% within a certain range. Like if they had gotten just a little bit closer, he was almost like automatic.
Now, he had kicked a field goal earlier in that game, and when he did kick that field goal, so I was watching it, it was a very, very low trajectory, and I guess he's known for kicking them like that. And we have Rich Bisaccia, who's our special teams coach. He was the interim head coach for the Raiders, and he told him before the game that if they didn't block at least an extra point or a field goal during the game, he'd be disappointed just because how low he was kicking them. So I guess they saw something and they took advantage of it, just being against Chicago in Chicago to basically end their season. That just makes it all the sweeter.
Yeah. A lot of block kicks this year. Game-winning block kicks as well. It's been interesting.
A lot of bad field goal kicking.
Yeah, I say a lot of missed field goals too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and missed from. I mean, we'll get to Justin Tucker in a second, and the rest. But Chris, what are your thoughts on Jordan Love this season? Because at the back end of last season, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception, probably the best quarterback in the league. A lot of excitement heading into this season, and there still is. 7-3 is a good record, but he's playing a little Brett Favre at the moment. He's slinging it a little bit. Are you concerned, or do you think he's going to come good? He's just getting back, a little bit rusty.
I don't mind the slinging it because we had Aaron Rodgers for so long and he played so conservatively in all these big moments. I think that's what ended up costing us a lot of games in the playoffs and when it came down to crunch time. So I think he's trying not to be that guy. At the same time, you can't be the reason why your team's losing games either. So a lot of these interceptions, you throw multiple pick sixes, he's throwing multiple red zone interceptions. There is a thing called a good interception. If it's a 3rd and long and it's basically like a punt almost, that's fine, right? But when you're throwing interceptions in the red zone, you're taking points off the board. You're throwing interceptions on 1st down, you're killing your drive. You're throwing pick sixes, you're giving the other team points. You got to cut down on those. He has the talent, he has the ability. I'm not worried about him in the long run. I've seen enough from him at this point. He can make every throw. The team seems to respect him. People think he's been playing for 10 years. This is his second year of starting. He's still learning the game. But no. I think he's fine. I have total confidence in him, and I saw what he did in the playoffs. So the good thing about him, he has a very short memory, and I like that for my quarterback. So I think he'll be fine.
That's what you need. And I don't know if I said this live, but I've definitely thought it. I always thought you guys lacked a wide receiver 1. You had a lot of 2s, like, second guys. But we'll say Christian Watson looked like a wide receiver 1 on the weekend.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, that's been his big thing. His comparison was Mike Evans when he got drafted, and he has the size and the speed and the ability of a Mike Evans. He has not finished in his season since he's been with the team, and that's his biggest issue. Always hamstrings too. His issue is he has size and speed, and he's always had these lower extremity injuries where he can't run. So if you can't run, it doesn't matter how fast you are, on the practice field. You got to be able to run in the games. But he can definitely be a number 1 if he can stay healthy.
Yeah. All right, moving on to another contender. I'm going to read out my stat of the week for you, okay?
Okay.
The Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, Las Vegas Raiders, and New York Giants are 2-8. That's their record. The Pittsburgh Steelers have won 2 games this year without scoring a touchdown. Against the Falcons and against one of my favorite teams, the Ravens, on the weekend. I don't know what it is about the Steelers, but all of a sudden I'm just really loving watching them because they play this like no frills top football, but it's efficient. Their defense just eats. Their kicker just kicks field goals, and like Russ just does, nothing special, but he gets it going. I don't know. That was another big win against the Ravens. Ravens seem to struggle against the Steelers all the time. I don't know what's going on there, but
it's because the Steelers are a good team. The Ravens struggle against all the good teams.
Fair enough. But I mean, the Steelers now, it's like the Steelers are the old, they're 7-2, well, they're 6-2, and they end up being 9-8 or 8-9, whatever. But I don't know. This year, I think is different. Did we watch any of this game, and what do we take away from it?
Mike Tomlin's got some moxie right now because he can feel what this team is doing, and if he knows if they can just turn 2 of those field goals into touchdowns, right? If they can just punch it in 1 or 2 times, right? That Russ interception was it was awful, it was terrible. If he knows that this team is right there on the borderline of being able to go to the Super Bowl, and he can feel it, and I think they're going to continue working on it. They got Mike Williams now, obviously, and they need to turn some of those field goals into touchdowns, though, if they want to go where they want to go. But the defense is there. I mean, they shut Baltimore down. All I hear about from you guys is Baltimore has the greatest offense in the history of human civilization, and they got shut down. I mean, that was just a beat
Well, I think
down.
against most teams they do, but Pittsburgh's different. I mean, their defense is just unbelievable. I mean,
so good.
Yeah.
It's like do you ever just like all 22 and just zone in on TJ Watt, just watch him?
I do.
Every single play, it's like he's either double teamed or he's getting penetration. It's like this dude is just unstoppable.
He's one of those only players. His stat line does not matter. He could go 0 for 0 for 0 and make a huge impact in the game because he's just pressuring the quarterback and changing the dynamic of the play every single play.
Yeah,
and there's some players you watch that you just know they're giving max effort every play. Like they're giving everything they have, and he's just one of those guys, man.
Oh yeah, it's so good. Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
There was 3 or 4 times
played the wrong quarterback
this game. Well, it was 3rd down, and he had a great protection, and you're like, all right, Lamar, take off, go and do your thing, do what you do, and he wouldn't. He just sat there and ended up throwing an incompletion or just off pass. But I was like, and he watched the replay, and he's got 15 yards with no one around him. And I'm just
that's
thinking,
because he's listening to you guys. All
So
you pundits keep talking about what a great thrower of the ball he is. He's the best thrower of the ball in the NFL. He's going to be a 3-time MVP. He can do no wrong. He just slings it. He's a maniac. He's a machine out there. Why would he need to run the ball if he could throw it so well?
All right. So what I'm trying to say is, like, his natural reaction is to run. That's it, right? But I feel like his coaches are saying, hey, you can't do this in the NFL. You can't keep getting beat up. You're our prized possession. Make smarter decisions. But I think it's happened the opposite effect, where now he's thinking so hard about going against his instincts that he's not sometimes just using his instincts and running. I think he needs to get his run game back a little bit because, Chris, I've said about this offense, it's a triple threat. There's Derrick Henry running, Lamar Jackson throwing, and Lamar Jackson running. If Lamar Jackson's not running and he's only throwing, and Derrick Henry is running, there's holes in their game. They don't have a great receiver core. So
what? Oh, now you're seeing. Now they don't have a great receiving core.
Right, I've never said they have. I said the way that Lamar Jackson's legs can give opportunities to his receivers, and he's a good thrower of the ball, makes them very dangerous.
Why did Derek? Earlier a few episodes ago, Derek was talking about how Derrick Henry wasn't getting enough carries, and you said it was all part of the plan or something. You were like, "Oh, they're just saving him." So he had 13 carries in this game. Why for 65 yards? Why does he only have 13 carries in this game? makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's old, so you've got to protect him a little bit.
That's not no.
No,
Derrick Henry's been in the league for a while, but Derrick Henry, you can say he is old, but I mean it's not because his body's wearing down. I mean the guy, I mean what he puts into his off-season workouts and his diet. I mean the guy's still playing in his prime. So like I'm with Chris, man. You got 65 yards on 13 carries. Like feed him the ball. I mean, and also, I will say, like you're saying, the receiving core is not great. A few episodes, Mark, and you did say there was you're like, oh, Zay Flowers is coming up, and
he's
talking
coming up.
about Deontay Johnson and Rashad Bateman. Like, let's not blame that. Let's just say that, like, I agree with you. I think Lamar is getting limited because of what he's getting in his head. He's not making the plays that we normally see him make with his legs. But you do have a Derrick Henry in the background that's averaging over 4 yards a carry. You need to feed him the ball.
Yeah, but if I look now from the weekend, there aren't too many running backs that have more than 15 carries. I mean, you've got Saquon Barkley.
Derrick Henry's not most running backs.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I'm just saying, like, especially when it gets to January football, he's going to be having 20, 25 carries. Like, that's when it gets to that time of the year. So, like, you just got to...
But we can't be playing for that time of the year. We need to be playing... Baltimore needs to be playing for right now. They're 7-4. You need you can't be content until you know you got your first, you're into the playoffs, or you're playing for a first round bye.
Well, I didn't have him as a contender. Mark said I should be murdered for that. Okay, so that's what he said.
I didn't say that. And first of all, take that back, please. Retract that. We don't want to get busted by YouTube again. Retract that statement.
I retract that statement. Well, you already said a bunch of crap that was worse earlier.
You couldn't leave Baltimore out of a contender category. I'm sorry.
They're the worst. They have the most penalties in the NFL. They're the most undisciplined team in football, and they have the worst pass defense in the NFL. They're a 7-4 team. If this is any other team that's 7-4 with the most penalties in football, the worst pass defense in football, nobody is going to put them as a contender. But because of the Ravens, because we're used to them being in the playoffs, then they get that accolade, even though they don't even win in the playoffs. So they are not a contender. They are not even close to a contender right now. They better win this game. They better win this game this weekend, or they might be on the outside looking in of a playoff spot.
Who are they playing this week? Oh,
they play the Chargers.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's real tough.
No, enough about the Ravens. All right, let's go to your other contender, the Chiefs. My first question is: are the Bills now in your contender tier?
No.
Derek, please help me out here. How? How are you gonna say no?
They gotta be.
Are the Bills beating the Chiefs in the regular season anything new? What are they, 4-1 against the Chiefs? Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes? In all those years, has that translated to anything in the playoffs? They always beat the Chiefs in the regular season.
0-3 in the playoffs.
So, no. You're telling me if these teams play again that everybody's going to be like the Bills are going to win this time? Absolutely not. No, so the Bills, I didn't see any.
Okay, so no matter what the Bills do, the Bills could go 17-0 until they beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. They'll never be a contender.
Yeah, I'm not basing it like you can't base it off of what they may do in the playoffs of this year. You have to say beating the Chiefs, they do consider a contender being in the contender category after that win. They have to be. I mean, you can't base off what they've done in the last 3 or 4 years in the playoffs against the Chiefs based on this year, because we don't know that. But I do think the victory over the Chiefs, it was a great win, and the Chiefs the first loss. You got to say Bills are in a contender category.
I mean, the Bills now
Josh Allen just played out of his mind. I mean, the guy.
What odds do you want? What odds do you want?
Of what?
Bills going to the Super Bowl. What odds do you want? You tell me whatever Vegas gives it right now. I will double it, okay? And we'll put some money on the line. The Bills are not going to the Super Bowl. It's just not happening.
The thing is, they're a Chiefs loss away from being the number 1 seed in the AFC.
They're in the worst division in the AFC. They have all these easy W's because they don't play anybody.
It doesn't matter. Do you want to go to Buffalo in January and you want to bet against that?
I mean, Miami with a backup quarterback took them to OT in the playoffs. So I don't know what you want me. I'm not nobody. You think Kansas City or Baltimore is afraid to go into Buffalo? No, nobody's afraid to go into Buffalo.
Did you say Kansas City or Baltimore?
Yeah.
All right, Baltimore's up in the contenders list. Let's go.
No, neither team's a contender, but Baltimore, I mean, like Baltimore, I'd like them better against the Bills. Josh Allen, he's a choke artist. He's not going to do good. He's James Harden of the NFL. He's going to put up stats during the regular season, and then when playoff time comes around, he's going to crap it all away. I'm not worried about them at all.
Here's what I'll say about the
I'm
Bills.
a Josh Allen fan. I like Josh Allen. I think he's a great quarterback, and I think that we haven't seen the best of Josh Allen yet. And I think I think Josh Allen they're going to win a Super Bowl.
Oh, they're going to win.
I think they're going to win a Super Bowl.
That'd be news to Buffalo fans.
I'm not saying this year, but I think before Josh Allen retires, he's going to win a Super Bowl.
I mean, I agree.
He's a great quarterback, man.
I mean, he's MVP favorite now, and deservedly so. I mean, before the season, Derek, you and I didn't have the Bills winning the division. We had the Jets.
Yeah, we were.
Sake, right?
Well, Chris can really give it to us for that pick.
But my concern about the Bills was their lack of a receiving threat, similar to the Ravens. What I just said then, but Josh Allen has just transformed his game. Now, he's not looking at one guy right away. That run to ice the game on fourth down, whew, no quarterback can do that. Not even Lamar Jackson. That was awesome. They're the best team in the AFC, and I think the second best team in the AFC is the Steelers. I don't think the Chiefs are the best team. What I'm concerned about, though, is that I think the Bills beat the Bills beat the Chiefs last year in Buffalo. The Chiefs weren't looking too good at the time. It was like, oh, the dynasty's over, and look what happened. I'm a little nervous about how the Chiefs react to this because it seems to spur them on, and they'll find something and just keep winning it again. But AFC is very exciting at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like Chiefs just it's like Chris. I will say Chris does have a point, though. It's like they haven't been able to beat them in the playoffs, and it's like the Chiefs just play this mind game with them, right? Like let them get these regular season victories, and then man, they just they get to the playoffs and just
Buffalo. That's they just won their Super Bowl. That's their Super Bowl right there. Be happy, Buffalo fans. You got your win at home. Like Taylor Swift couldn't go to the game because you accosted her and her family last time they went into Buffalo. So like, just be happy with that. And it's a successful season. You beat Kansas City in the regular season.
At the end of the day, I would say this: I have Bills in a contender spot, but it is so hard to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, but you can still have them as a contender and bet against them.
Well, then we can put. So if anybody we think might just be able to win a couple games, then everybody's a contender.
Well, Chris, that's why you have 5 or 6 teams in your category. You didn't put just one team in your contender category. If that was the case, you'd have one team in there.
It's all the teams I legitimately think can go to a Super Bowl. There is no way in the world
Bills cannot go to a Super Bowl.
No way. Zero chance that the Buffalo Bills can go to the Super Bowl.
You're
Zero.
Out of your mind. You're out
the
of your
Ravens
mind.
and the Ravens and the Bills, there's zero chance. Okay.
You're out of your mind.
I would have you got the Steelers and the Chiefs. It's gonna be one of those teams. That's it. That's all
Ravens
you have from the AFC.
And the Bills both can make it to the Super Bowl.
It was 3 teams, but now the Bengals are out, so they can't go now. So it's got Chiefs
My
and
God,
you got
the
Steelers.
Bengals. I mean, you had the Bengals.
That's it. 2. There's 2 teams that have a
talking about
chance.
the Ravens and Bills. It can't be in your category, but the Bengals were.
Hey, Derek, there's no point arguing with stupidity. Okay, you just.
Oh yeah, before the season, I said the AFC West was a weak division. You're all like, no, that's the strongest division, the AFC East or whatever.
So
it's the worst division.
You truly believe Green Bay has a chance to make the Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because the NFC is a lot more wide open because you got 5 interception man as the leading the best team right now. He could drop an egg at any moment. He could suck and throw 5 interceptions at any time. So yeah, the NFC there's going to be more contender teams than the NFC because it's a lot more wide open for who can like make a run and go to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah.
To
be honest with you,
nowhere.
Let's take a look at the playoff picture. I'll share my screen here because it looks like it's already pretty molded when you take a look at who's there and who's in the hunt. So let me share this. We'll wrap today up with a little playoff picture search. So the Chiefs and the Lions. Heads up, the Lions for the first time ever in franchise history are Super Bowl favorites. We didn't talk about them. They obviously blew Jacksonville off the park. It was embarrassing. I'm shocked that Doug Peterson still has a job right now. But
Me too.
Chiefs and Lions are number one. Let's start with the NFC. It's pretty much Lions and Eagles for that number one seed. Is there anyone else you think that could sneak in there from the NFC?
No.
Looking down.
It's
No.
pretty murky after that.
Okay. And then Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, Texans are there. I don't know about the Texans. I think that their O-line issues are just gonna hold them back. But to me, for the number one seed, it's a three horse race again. Chiefs, Bills, Steelers. Any teams from out there you think could creep in?
Chargers
to number one seed. Okay, 7-3.
Yeah,
All right, and they got the Chiefs again. They'll get a chance to go against them.
You hate the Chargers.
I
What it is? You don't like John
I like
Harbaugh
the
or
Chargers.
something.
I don't like Harbaugh. I don't, 49ers. He was coach there for a while, but he's doing a great job. And they're like a no frills team. They don't really have anybody.
Yeah, they
Like,
got the
they've
best
got-
scoring defense. They went from the worst scoring defense in football with that coach who sucked, and now they got the best scoring defense in football. So that's quite a year-over-year turnaround. So
Well, they used to have such a stacked defense, right? Like Khalil Mack, Joey
they always had the
Bosa.
players. That's why
JC
nobody
Checks, yeah.
nobody could ever understand why they couldn't play defense when they had all
Yeah.
these names on their team.
So yeah, they've got a good defense. I'll say that they have some names. Offense though is like they don't have any names, but they're winning. Herbert's playing really well. Obviously, him and Harbaugh have a great relationship. Yeah, no, I'll say I was wrong. Chargers are sneaky
But for
smoky.
the top seeds, I mean, I think the Chiefs got their little wake up call. So I mean, I think it's for the Chiefs and the Lions. I think it's kind of theirs to lose at this point. They're going to have to lose some more games here. I know the Bills beat the Chiefs, but the Bills are not going to go 15-2. They're still going to lose like a game or two. So they're not. I mean, I think Kansas City probably go 14-3 or something like that, and Buffalo probably go 13-4 or something along those lines.
Yeah, we've got so Steelers and Cardinals are interesting because they're both in divisions that are still open. Steelers, that win over Baltimore was big. Cardinals at 6-4 are in, we'll call it a weaker division, but Seahawks coming.
Yeah, there's going to be one team out of that division that made playoffs. I mean, whoever wins that division, right? So the NFC South and the NFC West, you're only going to have, I mean, unless Tampa Bay goes on a run here, but you might only have one team from each of those.
Yeah. Commanders, I think, are going to be a team that makes it in there. I like the Broncos down here. They've been, Bo Nix is on the upward trajectory. They smoked,
slinging that rock.
Falcons.
Oh, they smoked the Falcons on
Yeah.
the weekend. I took the Falcons as an upset, actually, so that was disappointing. But then if you look at the bubble, this is where I'm interested. The Colts at 5-6 are the 8th seeded team right now in the AFC. And I don't know. I mean, like Anthony Richardson has been, he's off tired. He comes back and has a good game, and now they're all back on them again. I don't know about the Colts. Dolphins, I think they can get going with Tua, but still, I don't
You
know.
already got 6 losses, right? So you basically
Right.
got to run the table
You
for
gotta
the most
run the
part.
table,
I
and they're at
mean,
9%
it's just,
probability.
I just don't. I don't know. I
So
just
really-
feel like we have a clear cut. I think we're pretty clear in most of the playoff teams that we have. I think it's just going to be mainly the seeding.
Yeah, exactly. And then from the NFC side, you have the 3 NFC West teams that are fighting for it.
And they're still going to be beating each other up. They're still
They'll
going
all
to play each other.
The only saving grace for them is that they're all only a game back from the Cardinals. So there's a chance there. Buccaneers as well are not too far behind the Falcons. They're a game behind. Did lose, 2 games behind, 2.5 games. They lost twice. So that's going to be tough for the Buccaneers to win that division.
Yeah, I don't know not the way Falcons are playing
Falcons
right
keep
now.
playing like they're playing. Jesus.
Right. Yeah, you never
It
know.
won't take long.
The NFC North just riding up there. You've got 1, 2, 3 teams in the playoffs as is. And then the Bears down here look like they're done. So the playoff picture's really starting to take shape. There'll be a few changes, obviously, at the back end of the season. But, I mean, we got 5 plus teams here at over 90% probability. So,
Hey, wait. You missed a team. Where are the Jets at? Sorry. I couldn't help myself. Oh, there they are. Right down there with the Patriots.
2%.
Sorry.
2%
Sorry.
chance.
bastard. You suck. Sorry. Couldn't help myself. Okay.
Well, we said last week there isn't a week that goes by where we don't get some Jets trashing. Jets are in full rebuild. They just fired the GM, so they're going to bring someone in to start fresh.
If you're a water boy or a ball boy or a towel boy for the Jets, you might want to start looking for other employment right now. I'm sure the Patriots will take you.
They're going to clean house and
bring some videotape with you. Bring some practice footage.
Get rid of everyone but the quarterback.
Yeah. Well,
because that's not the problem.
You've got Sauce Gardner, Bryce Hall, Garrett Wilson, all coming up, ready to get paid soon. You've got Quinnen Williams in there, who's one of the best defensive tackles. You've got some stacked teams there, but if you're starting fresh, those guys are all going to be available. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out. But you got to feel for the Jets. They've just been so bad for so long. They go and get Aaron Rodgers, and everyone thinks this is it, right? Blows his Achilles and comes back the next year and has just torn that place up.
I like their game plan right now. I mean, Zach Wilson would get you 8 wins, and you couldn't get a top draft pick. You bring Aaron Rodgers in, now you're going to get you a top 5 pick. So maybe they're just thinking big picture right now. Keep Aaron Rodgers in there so he can keep losing games for you, and he can get you a quarterback next year. So
yeah, it's
sorry,
it's a shit show out there.
That feels good. Sorry.
Any other NFL things we wanted to chat about before we head out? No, not too many big games on this week, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there were a lot of big ones this past week. It was kind of all up and down the board. So we're going to get some.
From a playoff standpoint, you've got San Francisco and Green Bay. So those two teams are vying for a playoff spot. Arizona and Seattle. The winner of that goes top of the division. And then Baltimore and LA also fighting for those wild card spots. So there are some interesting games and implications.
Yeah. Ravens Chargers Monday night, I think, is a big one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one and good way to end the week. But we'll be back next week to talk about it, and I'm sure the playoff picture will change again. Someone will come up. College football is going to change again. We'll see what happens after this week's games, but it's been good. It's been fun. Sorry I was a bit late, guys, but we'll chat next week, and yeah, go Hawks.
All right. Sounds good.
See ya.